You stir to consciousness, but something feels wrong. The darkness is too dense, too complete, not the soft nighttime dimness you're used to, peppered with the comforting glow of electronic stand by lights or the distant halo of street lamps. This is absolute. The air is heavier too, and cold, so cold that your breath hangs in ghostly puffs before your face. Beneath you is no memory foam mattress, but something oddly uneven and coarse. Shifting your body slightly, you feel the pressure of metallic springs pressing uncomfortably into your back, and a crisp rustling that's certainly not Egyptian cotton sheets. It's actual straw, mixed into the mattress to bulk it up. You've awoken, inexplicably, in a Victorian bedroom. Your senses sharpen as you take in the scent hanging in the still air, a complex mixture of wood smoke, dust, beeswax polish, and coal soot, layered with something older, linseed oil perhaps, or simply the must of time. The walls are dimly outlined in the faintest hint of moonlight through thick curtains, but no comforting LED glow meets your eyes. This isn't your time. A subtle sound breaks the quiet, a faint but deliberate creaking of footsteps on wooden stairs. You freeze, unsure whether to feel comforted or alarmed. A sliver of candlelight spills under the door, dancing with the faint motion of its holder. A knock, and then the door opens with a soft click. Standing there is a young woman in a simple black dress with a crisp white apron. Her face is lit by the candle she carries. She enters gracefully, with the demeanor of someone who has performed this ritual hundreds of times. "Good morning, ma'am," she says in a light accent, curtsying slightly. "It's 6. Shall I light your fire?" Before you can process what's happening, she moves efficiently to the cold fireplace in the room, setting down her candle and beginning to lay kindling and coal with practiced care. Within moments, a modest flame dances behind the grate, spreading tentative warmth. She continues, "Cook says breakfast will be served at 8, ma'am. Would you like a bath this morning?" The question sounds almost inviting until you recall what a Victorian bath entails. Servants hauling heavy buckets of hot water up several flights of stairs, pouring them painstakingly into a tin bathtub placed awkwardly in front of the fire, and then standing by, silently attending while you bathe. Not exactly the solitary, private luxury you're used to. "No, thank you," you say quickly, your voice hoarse in the cold air. "Just some water for washing, please." She nods and returns minutes later with a porcelain pitcher and basin, setting them gently on a washstand. The pitcher steams in the frigid air as she pours water into the bowl and lays out a towel. "Will there be anything else, ma'am?" You shake your head, and she curtsies again, quietly leaving and closing the door behind her. As silence settles once more, you begin to absorb your surroundings. You toss back the weighty wool blankets and swing your legs off the bed, immediately wincing as your bare feet meet the freezing wood floor. No carpeting here, only a few decorative rugs too thin to provide real insulation. You shuffle toward the washstand and confront your reflection in a slightly warped mirror. The glass bends your image just enough to feel surreal. You splash your face with the warm water and reach for the bar of soap near by, hard, yellow, and pungent with lye. Your skin tingles as you scrub. This is no lavender, scented luxury bar. You glance around, searching for clothing, and spot neatly folded garments laid across a simple wooden chair. As you begin to dress, a shocking green wallpaper catches your eye. It's vivid and rich, almost unnaturally so. Then a horrifying realization dawns. This green, called Shields green or Paris green, was made with arsenic, and it was everywhere in the Victorian era. Wallpaper, clothing, even children's toys often contained it. When exposed to moisture or warmth, it could release deadly vapors. In this very room, breathing the air for hours could mean chronic headaches, nausea, or worse, and yet the Victorians were enamored with it, clueless to the hidden killer they'd invited into their homes. A quiet knock interrupts your thoughts. The maid returns, this time bearing a tray with a cup and saucer. "Would you prefer tea or coffee, ma'am?" "Coffee," you reply. She pours a dark, thick liquid into the delicate china. You take a sip and nearly gag. It's bitter and burnt, harsh on the tongue. Victorian coffee was often cut with chicory or even burnt sugar to make expensive beans go further. This is definitely not your smooth, barista crafted latte. You notice the milk is separate. Thank goodness. Pasteurization hasn't been invented yet, and milk could easily carry dangerous bacteria. Even now, you're tempted to skip it altogether. As the maid helps you prepare for the day, she mentions something curious. Your walking costume is ready. You raise an eyebrow. A walking costume, unlike today's relaxed wardrobe, Victorians had specific outfits for every activity. A woman couldn't simply toss on jeans and sneakers. No, she required corsets, petticoats, multiple layers, gloves, hat, and often an umbrella or parasol. You groan inwardly but agree. If you're here, you might as well immerse yourself in the experience. Soon you're dressed in an elaborate ensemble that feels both regal and suffocating. You descend the staircase carefully, each step a cautious maneuver due to your long skirts and the steep incline. Victorian homes were not built with safety in mind. One wrong step could result in a broken limb or worse, and many novels of the time contained dramatic falls down such stairs. Now you understand why. Outside, the air is brisk but bracing. Horse-drawn carriages clop along cobblestone streets, their iron wheels rattling against the uneven surface. Street vendors call out their wares, flowers, chestnuts, newspapers, while barefoot children in patched clothing dart between carts and wagons. It's chaos, but it's also oddly enchanting. The city is alive. Still, you're painfully aware of what lies beneath the charm. Muddy streets caked with animal manure, chamber pot slop, and rotting refuse, all waiting to cling to those beautiful skirts trailing behind you. No wonder a boot scraper sits prominently by every door, a necessity in this environment. Back home, you admire the architecture. The house is red. Brick facade and intricate moldings reflect a level of craftsmanship rarely seen in modern buildings. Victorians, for all their flaws, built things to last. Inside, the house feels warmer now. Fires crackle in several rooms, and the flickering glow of gas lamps adds a golden hue to the gloom. You enter what must be the drawing room, a beautifully appointed space with tall ceilings, heavy curtains, and an imposing fireplace. A book lies open on a side table, and a lace doily rests on the arm of a chaise lounge. It's elegant, even cozy. You wander to another room, a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with leather-bound volumes. A grand writing desk occupies one corner, papers neatly stacked. You leaf through an account book and discover page after page of meticulous records, food purchases, servant wages, coal deliveries, fabric costs, charitable donations. Running a Victorian household was more than domestic. It was managerial, like running a small business. The pages are so detailed that you begin to feel dizzy. Perhaps it's the gas lamps or the faint aroma of coal smoke and polish. You steady yourself, blinking away the sensation. You sit briefly in a carved wooden chair and reflect on the sheer labor involved in Victorian life, not just for the lower class, but for everyone. From the endless coal deliveries to the toxic wallpaper, the strong coffee to the arsenic-laced fashion, It was a world unknowingly filled with danger, discomfort, and hidden poisons. And this is only the beginning. You take your time exploring the house, still stunned by how beautifully intricate yet fundamentally hazardous it all feels. With each step on the aged wooden floorboards, the house creaks softly beneath your boot, timid echoes reminding you that this entire structure, though elegantly designed, exists without the reinforcements and safety protocols you're used to. There's no insulation in the walls, no fire-retardant materials, just dry timber and gas lamps. You wander back into the drawing room and notice that although fires are lit and lamps are aglow, the air remains heavy, laced with the unmistakable scent of coal and burning gas. You're grateful for the warmth, but uneasy about the source. Victorian gas fixtures were notorious for leaks. They filled homes not just with warmth and light, but with potentially fatal fumes. Your eye catches a tall armoire with mirrored doors reflecting the flickering firelight. You open it slowly, curious. Inside are a few exquisite garments, neatly folded and arranged, dresses in bold crimson and shimmering emerald, trimmed with lace and silk. They are stunning, but deadly. Many Victorian fabrics were dyed using arsenic and mercury compounds. That red might be laced with cinnabar, a mercury sulfide. The green almost certainly contains arsenic. A matching hat rests on the top shelf, adorned with vivid artificial flowers, dyed with even more toxic substances. The very symbols of wealth and refinement here could shorten a person's life. Beauty in the Victorian era was often laced with poison. Your gaze drifts to the dressing table nearby. A collection of ornate glass bottles glimmers in the soft light. Lotions, powders, and cosmetics, all presented as luxuries, but the contents, a deadly cocktail, lead-based foundation, arsenic skin tonics, and belladonna drops designed to dilate the eyes. Every morning routine was a risk. Every effort to appear delicate or desirable, a gamble with health. You leave the dressing room and find yourself in what appears to be a small hallway connecting to a study, a masculine space with darker wood, more angular furnishings, and shelves filled not just with books, but ledgers, correspondence, and curiosities. You leaf through household account books, and each page tells the story of logistics and labor. Entries meticulously document the daily necessities: butter, lamp oil, soap, fabrics, wages for the cook and scullery maid, orders for coal, and even receipts for flowers and lace. Victorian households, even those that ran smoothly on the surface, were like machines in constant motion, fueled by servant labor, logistical planning, and money. An error in any area could lead to disaster: unpaid staff, illness, a shortage of coal in the dead of winter. Coal, there it is again. The word appears so frequently in the books it feels ominous. Victorian homes devoured coal. Fires were kept burning in drawing rooms, bedrooms, kitchens, and hallways. The dust was everywhere. It coated surfaces, hung in the air, and eventually crept into lungs. It was no surprise that many Victorians, regardless of class, suffered from respiratory ailments. Your feet carry you toward the stairs again, and you start to climb. The banister is smooth and cold beneath your fingers, worn down from generations of use. The staircase groans softly as you ascend, but it feels solid. This is the main staircase, the one used by the family. Narrower servant stairs, steep, uneven, and dangerously tucked away, are somewhere else in the house, likely causing countless injuries behind the scenes. At the top, you find yourself in a corridor with several rooms, more bedrooms, including a small one with toys neatly arranged in a corner and a sampler framed on the wall. A nursery. You enter quietly. It's empty, but there are signs of life. A half-dressed doll on the chair, a woolen blanket neatly folded. Your mind drifts. Was there once a child here? Did they play on these floors, breathe in the same arsenic-laced wallpaper fumes, sleep beneath a gas-lit sconce? You step back into the hallway and pause, feeling a draft. The wind rattles one of the windows slightly. This house, though grand, is far from airtight. Cold seeps through the walls. Drafts snake beneath doors and between floorboards. Fireplaces help, but without central heating, warmth remains elusive. Back downstairs, the cook has begun preparing lunch. The kitchen is the warmest room in the house now, with the cast iron range radiating steady heat. Copper pots hang from overhead racks, and the scent of roasting meat mingles with that of baking bread. It's comforting in a visceral way. You wander in, marveling at the sheer size of the range. It dominates one wall like an iron beast. But here, too, the dangers hide in plain sight. The pantry shelves are lined with jars of preserved vegetables, and pickling was a common method of preservation before refrigeration. But the lids on these jars catch your eye. They're sealed with thick, dull-colored solder, likely lead. Over time, the lead would leach into the contents, causing slow, cumulative poisoning. Many cases of chronic fatigue, irritability, or even brain damage may have come from such kitchen staples. Bottles of sauces and condiments, like the ever-popular Worcestershire sauce, line another shelf. But even those were once made using unregulated ingredients: anchovy extract, tamarind, molasses, and sometimes even coal tar, arrived additives or chemical preservatives that damage skin and lungs after prolonged exposure. You step back uneasy. So much of this life, so much of this house is trying to kill you quietly. You return to the family spaces, to the ornate, clean surfaces where things feel more civilized, yet somehow more dangerous because of that false sense of elegance. A maid passes you with a nod, heading upstairs to finish turning down the beds. You decide to take a short walk outside. Fresh air seems essential now. The weather has shifted. The wind has picked up slightly, whistling around corners and slipping through cracks in the masonry. You take a deep breath of the outdoor air, cool and invigorating. Victorians, it turns out, had a strong appreciation for fresh air, especially for children, who were often sent on daily walks regardless of weather. They didn't fully understand germ theory for much of the era, but they intuitively believed ventilation and outdoor activity promoted good health. On your return, you carefully use the boot scraper again, ensuring no muck follows you inside. You notice, for the first time, how the architecture reflects the social hierarchy. The servants' entrances are narrow, tucked around the back, designed for invisibility. Their quarters, plain, sparse, and functional, are located in the attic or basement, far removed from the lavish main floors. You catch a glimpse into the servants' hall, a different world entirely. No wallpaper here, just painted walls in muted tones. The furniture is sturdy but unadorned. The contrast is striking. One house, two realities. Eventually, you find yourself back in the drawing room. The day is drawing to a close. The lamps have been dimmed slightly, and a fire burns softly in the grate. The hush of twilight settles over the space. A maid appears, this time carrying a tray with the first course of dinner, a delicate soup served in fine china. You eat slowly, aware of how much effort went into each element. The meal unfolds in quiet formality. Fish, meat, vegetables, and finally, pudding, all in small portions, artfully arranged. With dessert, a small glass of sweet wine is poured. You hesitate before sipping. In the Victorian era, wines were often adulterated with additives to make them appear richer or sweeter. Some even contained lead-based sweeteners. You sip carefully, just enough for taste. After dinner, you retire to your bedroom. The maid has already lit the fire and turned down your bed. A nightgown is laid neatly across the coverlet. You attempt to undress but find yourself struggling. Victorian fashion is a maze of hooks, buttons, and ties, many of which you cannot reach on your own. It's a strange feeling being dressed but trapped. Eventually, you manage to unlace your bodice enough to slip into your nightclothes. As you sit at the edge of the bed, a sound interrupts the quiet, the soft creak of floorboards, followed by a voice, small, uncertain. "I had a bad dream," it says. It's a child's voice. You rise and move down the hall, candle in hand. In a modest bedroom, a little girl sits up in bed, eyes wide. You set the candle down and sit beside her, gently smoothing her hair. "It's all right," you whisper, "just a dream." She nods and lies back down, eyes slowly closing. You stay for a while, watching her breathing slow, matching yours. Her face looks warm, too warm maybe. You touch her forehead and feel a slight heat. A fever, possibly. Illness was a constant concern in this world without antibiotics, without regulated health care. A simple cold could spiral into pneumonia. Eventually, you return to your room. The gas lamps cast soft shadows as you lie back into bed, but sleep doesn't come easily. There's a smell, something sharp, chemical, not quite smoke, not quite anything you can name. You sit up, heart pounding. Could it be gas? Victorian gas leaks were common and could be fatal. Carbon monoxide, though odorless, sometimes came with additives for detection, but not always. You sniff again. The smell lingers, faint but present. You open the window slightly, letting in a chill wind. Someone knocks softly on the bathroom door. A man, your husband, enters, concerned. He smells it too. You nod. Better safe than sorry. He turns off the gas lamp and leaves with a formal good night, heading to what you now realize is his separate bedroom. You're left alone in the growing dark, aware of how precarious your existence in this house truly is. And there are still so many hidden killers waiting. You wake slowly, your eyes opening to a pale morning light filtering through the heavy curtains. The fire in your bedroom has burned low, but still offers a lingering warmth. The smell of yesterday's coal lingers faintly, mixed with a hint of wax and ash. The room is quiet, eerily so, but for the occasional creak of the old house adjusting to the cool dawn air. You sit up, your body sore from sleeping on such a firm surface. The mattress hasn't softened overnight, and your spine protests as you stretch. You rise, careful not to trip over your heavy nightgown or catch your foot on the cold iron bed frame. The gas lamp remains turned off, and the room relies on the flickering light of a newly rekindled fire. On your washstand is another pitcher of warm water and a fresh towel. You clean yourself quickly, remembering the maid's presence the night before. Today, you'll face another layer of restrictive garments, another walking costume, and another menu of unpredictable meals. You hear voices from the hallways, oft but distinct, servants exchanging morning instructions. One mentions the delivery of new coal. Another discusses the household's need for vinegar and candles. You move toward the staircase, walking slowly, your slippers muffled by thin rugs. Each stair groans slightly beneath your weight. The main hallway glows faintly as the gas lamps are being turned on, one by the maid. She balances a taper in one hand and moves methodically, lighting each globe with care. You nod to her politely, receiving a gentle curtsy in return. Downstairs, breakfast is waiting. The food is simpler than the evening meal, toast, plain, unbuttered, as per the customs of the time, hard, boiled eggs and tea. The toast is dry, almost brittle, and tastes of slightly scorched flour. Victorians didn't believe butter was suitable for the morning. It was too indulgent. Instead, tea is the comfort here, warm, slightly bitter, but familiar. The teapot, though ornate, might contain lead solder in the seams. You push the thought aside and sip slowly. A small girl enters the room, guided by her governess. She's dressed in a child-sized version of the same layers you wear: petticoat, woolen dress, stockings, and shoes polished to a shine. She offers a polite good morning, then sits stiffly at the table. You realize she is Charlotte, the little girl you consoled during the night. After breakfast, she's escorted upstairs to begin her day of lessons, needlework, piano practice, and reading aloud from moral storybooks. You decide to join her briefly in the drawing room. She is working diligently on a sampler, stitching letters and a moral verse in neat, careful rows. Her governess nods at you but remains silent, focused on maintaining proper behavior. It strikes you that Charlotte's life is already structured with the expectations of womanhood. Her lessons aren't meant to develop her independence or intellect. They are intended to prepare her for marriage. Her future will be measured not in careers or personal achievements, but in how well she upholds societal expectations, how desirable she becomes to a husband. You gently compliment her work, and she beams, clearly pleased. There is tenderness in her smile, but behind it is a cage she doesn't yet see. You leave the room quietly and decide to explore the rest of the house. A door at the far end of the hallway leads to a wing you haven't seen yet. You step inside and find a surprising space, a study, not the masculine, business-like office from before, but something else, a room lined with cabinets, display cases, and tall shelves filled with natural curiosities. Taxidermy birds perch under glass domes, their feathers vivid and eerie. Mineral specimens rest on velvet-lined trays labeled with tiny cards. Some of the rocks glitter with embedded crystals, while others are dull, rust-red, or dark green. The air smells faintly of chemicals, preservatives, and polish, no doubt. You approach a case and peer in. A blue butterfly mounted beneath a glass lid catches your eye. It's stunning, almost alive, but then your gaze shifts to a label beside it: Realgar. A chill passes through you. Realgar is arsenic sulfide, highly toxic. Another display holds cinnabar, mercury sulfide. Even in death, these specimens pose risks. The books in the room offer no relief. Many are bound in embossed leather, their pages edged in gilt. You pull one down and flip through it. Botanical drawings, pressed flowers, handwritten observations. Another contains geological maps, yet another features anatomical sketches and detailed medical notes. Knowledge, beauty, preservation, all laced with danger. You close the book and sit briefly in a reading chair, trying to imagine the life of the woman who once sat here. Did she marvel at nature while unknowingly poisoning herself? Did she clean these specimens herself, perhaps inhaling dust from mercury and arsenic? You leave the study feeling the weight of history, of beauty and harm deeply entangled. The late morning passes slowly with household rhythms moving like clockwork. Servants carry messages, clean rooms, polish brass fixtures, and prepare the midday meal. You wander to the back of the house near the service wing. There, a hallway opens into the servants' quarters. The difference is startling. Gone are the elaborate wallpapers, intricate moldings, and fine drapes. The walls are painted in plain whitewash. The floors are bare wood, scrubbed clean but worn down by countless footsteps. Light filters in through small windows, more functional than decorative. The kitchen buzzes with energy. Cook commands the space like a general, directing two younger maids to stir pots and prepare platters. A boiling kettle whistles on the cast iron range, and the air is thick with the aroma of onions, herbs, and freshly baked bread. Copper pans hang from ceiling racks, dull but well kept. On a high shelf in the pantry, you spot another curiosity, labeled bottles, each with a handwritten tag. Mustard, pickled onions, preserved cherries, anchovy paste. You scan the labels for ingredients. Most are harmless, but one bottle catches your attention. A thick, dark sauce with residue clinging to the stopper. You recognize it, an old-style Worcestershire sauce. The recipe would have included anchovies fermented in barrels, sometimes uncleaned, and preservatives of dubious safety. Moving to the larder, you see several glass jars of preserves, some sealed with wax, others with metal lids. As in the pantry, lead is a likely component. It's a chilling realization. Every bite of food, every condiment, could be quietly damaging the body over time. You pass through a narrow door that leads into a storage space. There's a wooden box of matches, lucifer matches, they're called. Made with white phosphorus, they were easy to ignite but deadly to manufacture. The women who worked in match factories often developed phossy jaw, a condition where the phosphorus entered their systems, decaying their jawbones, causing glowing lesions, and eventually death. Some took their own lives to escape the pain and stigma. You pick up one of the matches, turning it over in your fingers, then quickly put it down. This house, like many, is filled with small, deadly conveniences. You return to the brighter parts of the home as lunch is called. You sit at the table while a footman places a delicate plate before you, chicken with root vegetables and buttered bread. It's warm, wholesome, and tastes better than expected. Still, you wonder, was the chicken fresh? Was the butter churned from clean milk? Was the bread made from flour free of additives like alum? As you eat, the room falls into silence, the ticking of the wall clock providing the only sound. A maid enters to serve pudding, then withdraws quietly. After lunch, you spend time with Charlotte again. The two of you sit on a window seat in the drawing room, overlooking the garden. She chats happily about her lessons, her favorite books, and her doll collection. Her innocence is disarming, but you're struck by how little space she's allowed to simply be a child. Her clothes are tight and structured, her speech is rehearsed, even her play feels scheduled, a walk is suggested for the air. The maid brings Charlotte's walking cloak, gloves, and hat. You dress accordingly and step into the cold afternoon. The path is muddy, and Charlotte must be carefully lifted to avoid soaking her shoes. The two of you walk slowly, guided by the maid. The streets remain busy, vendors, carriages, men with newsboys' caps calling out the latest headlines. You see a flower vendor selling roses. You buy a few for Charlotte, who clutches them delicately. The maid mentions they would be perfect for the parish's upcoming charity display. She smiles and adds white roses for purity, ivy for friendship. The Victorians loved their symbolism, so even flowers had meaning. Everything here is coded, proper, controlled. You return from your walk chilled, despite the heavy cloak wrapped around your shoulders. Charlotte's cheeks are flushed with the cold, and the maid quickly ushers her upstairs for a warm bath. A process you now understand involves kettles of hot water carried by hand, laboriously filled in a hip-height copper tub. You can hear the splashing and thudding footsteps echoing faintly through the floorboards. You move toward the drawing room again. The fire has been restoked, and a faint haze of coal smoke lingers in the air, clinging to the thick velvet curtains and the silk upholstery. The room is comfortable, but with an edge. Like everything in this world, it requires work and carries risk. Comfort here is built on human labor and dangerous materials. You sit down near the fireplace, a book open in your lap. It's a collection of domestic advice columns, guidance for the Victorian lady on how to manage servants, host guests, and preserve one's household. Some passages are absurdly detailed: how to fold linen, the ideal shape of butter pats, the angle at which a fire poker should lean by the grate. But others reveal a darker truth, how to maintain appearances at all costs, even when things go wrong. One entry recommends rubbing cutlery with hot sand and vinegar to remove discoloration. No mention of gloves or skin safety. Another offers instructions for whitening fabric with chloride of lime, known today as bleach, but without ventilation or protection. You shudder. The atmosphere is still. Outside, dusk falls fast. The gaslights in the street flicker on, casting a pale yellow glow through frosted windows. You rise and step toward the hallway. There, at the far end, you hear voices, muffled but urgent. You follow the sound. In the scullery, a young maid has burned her hand on a kettle. Her fingers are red and swollen, and she bites back tears as the cook scolds her, not out of cruelty, but concern that the household must continue running. The girl is quickly wrapped in a linen cloth soaked in vinegar. There is no true antiseptic, no understanding of bacterial infection, just folk remedies and prayers. You offer help, but you're politely waved away. A place like this has its own rules, its own order. You are a guest here, a strange one, perhaps, but still not of their world. Later, the footman brings in a decanter of port and small glasses of sweet cordial to warm the body. This time you decline. You're too aware of the risks. Some wines were known to be adulterated with lead or copper sulfate to enhance color and shelf life. Even the sugar used in cordials might be whitened with bone ash or ground chalk. You head to the parlor and find Charlotte again, dressed for the evening in a deep blue gown with lace cuffs. She looks like a porcelain doll, elegant, still too composed. She shows you a new book her governess gave her, the moral alphabet. Inside are simple rhymes, each letter tied to a virtue or sin. A is for always obey, B is for be not bold, C is for cover your head in church. You smile gently and listen as she recites a few lines. But the lesson is clear: obedience is virtue, modesty is sacred, joy must be regulated. As evening draws on, the household prepares for dinner. You're invited to change your attire. No one dines in their walking dress. Upstairs, your room has been tended to. A fresh gown lies across the bed, black silk with jet beading and a tight, boned waist. You feel dread at the thought of putting it on, but there is no way around it. You dress slowly, pulling the corset tight, gasping slightly as the bodice closes. Back downstairs, the dining room is lit by tall candles and a central gas chandelier. Shadows flicker across the ceiling. The table is set with heavy silverware and crystal glasses. Each plate bears a delicate pattern in cobalt blue, beautiful but likely laced with lead glaze. Soup is served, pea and ham. The warmth is welcome, but you wonder about the cleanliness of the ingredients. Did the peas come from tins? Were they boiled enough to kill any bacteria? Next comes roast beef, browned and crisp at the edges. The meat tastes hearty but rich with fat. Vegetables follow: boiled carrots, suet dumplings, and mashed turnips. Everything is overcooked by modern standards, yet under-sterilized by necessity. You glance at the young maid serving the dishes. Her cheeks are pale, and there's a smear of coal on her sleeve. She looks about 15. You wonder if she gets enough to eat or sleep. Probably not. Dessert is plum pudding with brandy sauce. The flames that light it are theatrical and dangerous. Alcohol set ablaze and brought to the table in a dramatic blue flicker. It's impressive but risky. Fire in this house is ever present. After dinner, you retreat once more to the parlor. The others read, sew, or engage in mild conversation. You sit quietly, head resting against the back of a chair, feeling the fatigue of the day settle into your bones. The heat from the fire is now stifling. Your head swims slightly. You wonder, is it the tight corset, the lingering gas, or something more sinister? Arsenic in the wallpaper, lead from the crystal. mercury dust from old displays. The symptoms are vague: dizziness, fatigue, irritability, common in Victorian life and often dismissed as nerves or hysteria, especially in women. But now you understand, they weren't imagining it. Their homes, their routines, their very air was poisoned. Charlotte stands at the piano and begins to play a light, simple tune. Her fingers dance on the keys, her posture perfect, but behind her poise is pressure. You see it in her jaw, clenched just a little too tight. She's learned already to hide discomfort, to endure, and you begin to wonder if you have, too. The parlor grows quiet as the evening deepens. The lamplight dims slightly, flickering in protest against the dwindling gas pressure. You sit motionless for a moment, listening to Charlotte's piano playing fade into stillness. She closes the lid gently and looks toward you. There's a softness in her face now, fatigue, perhaps, or simply the echo of an entire day shaped by rules. The governess calls her, and Charlotte stands obediently, offering a tiny curtsy. She is led away to bed, her hair already loosened from its braid. You remain seated, letting the fire warm your face. The sensation is both pleasant and oppressive. The heat is uneven, your back is chilled, your face flushed. The room breathes around you, furniture creaking softly, a clock ticking on the mantel, the ghost of footsteps above. Eventually, you stand, wandering again through the halls. You pass portraits hung in ornate frames. Victorians loved their lineage, family names and legacies displayed on canvas, gazes immortalized in oil. The women look stern, their hair tightly coiled, eyes slightly hollow. The men appear stiff, many in uniform or academic robes. No smiles, nothing spontaneous. These were meant to endure, not delight. One door you hadn't noticed before catches your attention. It's slightly ajar. You push it gently and step inside. The room is dim, dust motes swimming in gaslight glow. It's a nursery, clearly disused. The toys are old, scattered, forgotten. A cradle sits by the wall, a wooden horse, and a tall dollhouse with faded paper wallpaper inside. The air smells dry, like paper and time. On a shelf lies a doll. You approach, lifting it gently. Porcelain, cracked slightly at the temple, one eye stuck closed. The dress is handmade, but stained, perhaps with ink or something darker. You place it back and run your hand along the dollhouse roof. Inside, miniature rooms mirror your surroundings. Even in play, Victorian children rehearsed adulthood. Drawing rooms, parlors, even a tiny pantry. But something catches your eye, a black smudge near the dollhouse chimney. A smear of soot or mold. You lean closer. No, it's a spot where the wallpaper peeled away, revealing green underneath. That same arsenic-tinged pigment. Even here, especially here, children weren't safe. You feel your stomach twist. You back out of the nursery, heart heavy, and return to the hall. The shadows are longer now, stretching up walls and into corners. The house has become a labyrinth. Doors where there were none, hallways tilting just slightly wrong. The world feels loose, unstitched. You make your way back to your own room, but pause at the threshold. Something about the door, just slightly too narrow, the knob too low. As you open it, the scent hits you. Lavender, wax, something metallic. The fire is low, the bed turned down. A candle flickers on the washstand. Your gown has been laid out again for morning. On the chair sits a basin of water, but it's tinged pink. You approach confused, then you see it, a small trickle of red across the rim. A sharp pin, maybe, or something worse. Your heart pounds. You back away, then turn toward the window. Outside, the gas lamps line the street in a crooked row, their flames swaying in the wind. A carriage passes. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks, and then silence again. The air is heavy. You lie down, fully clothed, unwilling to undress. The sheets are cool against your skin. but the fire cracks uneasily, giving off a strange scent. Your breathing slows. You realize what this has become. You are not simply visiting the past. You are steeped in it. It clings to your clothes, your lungs, your bones, the poisons, the routines, the enforced silences. Sleep comes slowly, uneasily, and then the dreams begin. You're walking through the house again, but it's wrong, skewed like a reflection on water. The wallpaper peels and curls, bleeding green. The dollhouse stands 5 feet tall now, its tiny rooms echoing with whispers. Charlotte's voice sings faintly from within. A is for always obey. You try to turn, but your feet are heavy. Your corset is too tight. You gasp for air, reaching for laces that aren't there. In the mirror across the room, your reflection is watching, but it doesn't blink. You try to speak, but no words come. Just breathe, shallow, wheezing. Then a voice behind you. You'll feel better in the morning. You spin, but the room is empty. You wake suddenly, heart racing. The fire is cold. The candle is out. It is morning again, or perhaps something pretending to be morning. You wake before the light returns. The room is dark, still heavy with night, but something feels different. A tension in the air. You sit up slowly, blanket heavy across your chest, a woolen weight that traps your breath. The fire has long since gone out, and the air is cold. The basin is empty now. No pink water, no trace of whatever came before. Only the scent of scorched coal and wax lingers. You dress quickly, pulling on yesterday's layers. Your hands shake slightly. The house groans above and below, shifting with the weight of time. You leave your room and descend the stairs quietly. The house feels unfamiliar now. Each step creaks louder than it should. The gas lamps are off, and the chandeliers sway slightly despite no draft. A fine soot coats the banister. In the front parlor, the curtains are drawn, but a thin blue light leaks through. Morning, or something like it. Charlotte's governess passes you in the hall without looking up. Her face is pale, drawn, her cap is askew. She seems distant, robotic in her movements. You open your mouth to speak, but say nothing. In the kitchen, breakfast is being prepared. A kettle rattles on the range. The cook mutters under her breath, counting something. Eggs or debts or mistakes. A maid spills a jar of preserves on the floor. It shatters. The red streak runs toward your shoes like blood. No one reacts. You turn away. In the back room, the door to the pantry stands open. You peer inside. A stack of tins, most without labels. A bottle of sauce with a faded seal. The glass is cloudy. Nearby, a crate of vegetables. Soft sprouting mold, but still waiting to be cooked. You step back, bumping into a shelf. A jar falls and bursts on the floor, dark jam ringed with white fuzz. It smells faintly sweet and utterly wrong. You flee the kitchen. The hallway bends again, narrowing unnaturally. The wallpaper changes subtly. The flowers no longer repeat perfectly. Some stalks end in dead buds. Others twist. You feel the walls closing in. The library door is open now. Inside, the scholar's room is as you saw it before. Books stacked to the ceiling, glass cases filled with specimens. But now you notice things you missed. A taxidermied bird whose eyes have clouded. A fox with seams splitting open, leaking sawdust. A mineral display labeled cinnabar, mercury ore. Bright red, dangerously beautiful. You approach the desk. A manuscript lies open. The pages are stained and curling. You read a line aloud. Beware what is preserved without consent. Another, the home is a museum of its own death. You close the book. The air smells of rotting leather and dust. You wipe your hand across the glass case. Arsenic dust clings to your palm. You back away, nearly knocking over a glass bottle. Inside floats a preserved frog, eyes wide in permanent surprise. You leave the room. Outside, the house has begun to wake, or pretend to. Children's footsteps echo above. A door slams somewhere upstairs. In the drawing room, someone coughs. a dry, persistent rasp. You remember the stories of gas poisoning, of flus gone wrong, of entire families asphyxiated in their sleep. You pass the sitting room and glance in. Charlotte is there alone, standing at the window. She's not dressed yet, only her white shift loose at the shoulders. Her hair is down. She does not turn to look at you. You step in gently. She says nothing for a while. Then, quietly, there's a dead bird in the fireplace. You walk forward. In the hearth half, hidden under ash, is indeed a bird, soot-covered, wings curled inward. It must have flown down the chimney, a small sparrow, stiff with death. Charlotte doesn't move. She looks out the window again. They always come in winter, she says, and they never find their way out. You kneel and gently lift the creature. Its bones feel too light. You place it in the coal scuttle. Charlotte turns finally. Her eyes are wide but unfocused. They say you get used to the air. She whispers, you don't, you just forget to notice. You want to comfort her, but there's no comfort left in this house. Instead, you stand, you reach out and brush a strand of hair behind her ear. She flinches just slightly. The door creaks behind you. The governess stands in the doorway, pale, watchful. She says nothing. You nod, and she leads Charlotte away. You step back into the hallway, unsure of where to go now. The house feels alive, but sick, like something too old to move, still pulsing under its own weight. You feel it in your skin. You walk the corridors one last time, past the dining room with its leaded crystal and poisoned plum pudding, past the nursery with its arsenic dollhouse and silent toys, past the parlor with its dying fire. Every step heavier, you find your coat by the door. You place your hand on the knob. You pause for a moment. You imagine staying, letting the walls swallow you, becoming part of the pattern. You open the door. The cold rushes in. You step into the morning. Behind you, the house exhales. Slowly, almost relieved, you walk away. You do not look back.